The Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series.
What's up, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Prophet of Thought series right here on the old T.P.O.T YouTube page. I'm your host, X, of course, and tonight, y'all know we will have T.L.O.T, Unicorn 4, but y'all know that already. I guess I just like saying it. Before we get started, first of all, we're running a little behind, y'all, like crazy. Quite a bit behind. I haven't even sent the team the link yet. Like kind of just getting prepared. Had laid down and took a little nap earlier and looked up, and the next thing I know, it was damn showtime. I was like, Jesus Christ, let me get my lazy ass up in here. Yeah, so tonight's topic is what is black? Right now, I'm going to be sending the team the link. Go ahead and do that. Like I said, we're running a little behind. So just hold on, team. Link's coming down the pipe in about 2 minutes. Because I'm still kind of asleep, so I'm moving a little slow. I'm moving a little slow. But yeah. If y'all was tuned in last night, I mean, last night was actually pretty good. It's a good show. Brother Obsidian was on, and I've been getting a lot of feedback from the show, of course. A lot of good feedback. A few negative comments, but y'all know I don't give a damn about that. But yeah, it turned out to be pretty good. Picked up a few subscribers along the way, so I think it was a good thing. I think it was a positive move for the whole TPOT outfit, if you will. So, I want to thank Brother Obsidian for showing up last night, because he had to realize that, coming to OTPOT, he was going to catch a little bit of heat, but he still decided to show up anyway. And, I respect him for that. But tonight, we will be talking what is black, and I'm interested in hearing the unicorn's different take on things, like, because how the unicorns, they all have like a little different style, how they answer things and how they see things. So I'm really interested in seeing, what their answers are and seeing how they respond to the questions that I throw at them. If I can ever get the damn links sent out, that is. Don't worry, ladies, they're coming. It's coming. It's a coming. I got to get my computer and stuff figured out because, like I said, I'm like really behind everybody. I'm talking really, really, really behind. But it's a coming. So it's a coming. All right. I see one of the unicorns has appeared. What's good? What's good, Lady Cats?
Good evening, Brother X. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm running a little behind tonight. That's why, I usually send y'all the link, about 20 minutes before showtime, but I'm like running really, really behind. So, but we're gonna get it though. We're gonna get it. I
Yeah,
just need to send
it's
it to
understandable.
yeah, sometimes shit just be happening. And what
Hmm.
happened today is my black ass fell asleep. That's what happened today. That's what happened today. Black ass took a nap, laid down for a little while. I said, I'm just going to catch like an hour nap that turned into like 3.5 hours. Next thing I know, it was damn near 9 o'clock. So I had to jump up, do all that. But, all right. The link has been sent out to the team.
Okay.
So, um, like I said, tonight we will be asking the question, what is black? And
Okay.
when we ask, what is black? Because now we're all black people here, right? Because I don't think I have too many white subscribers. No, we're all black folks here, right? So this is a black discussion. we're all black. We're all black here, right? So usually when you hear black, you think of people. But what makes us black? Is it our color? Is it our lifestyle? Is it how we live our lives? Is it the things we do? Or is it a classification that we have been given by others and we have just kind of adopted it, if you will? Because
I,
if you go back to when black people were brought here, okay, from the continent of Africa, many, many hundreds of years ago, did they call those people black? Were they like, oh, these are black people? Or were they like, these are others? Uh, you look at some of those old pictures from, like post-slavery times and during slavery times, those people were so black they was blue. They might have called them blue people. Who knows? They were so black they were blue. So where did this whole construct of black come from? And what does it mean? What does it mean to people? And what does it mean to us? What does it mean to others when you say what is black? Now, I see most of the unicorns have assembled, and Lady Kendra's running behind as normal. It's all good. She's probably having problems with her browser or whatever. But yeah, we often we hear black. Well, let me go ahead and start and ask the panel. We might as well go ahead and get into it. When you think black, what do you think? What does that mean to you when someone says something or someone is black? As a matter of fact, let's start with someone. What do you think black means?
well, usually to me, I think it they're just talking about the race that a person is, but there are some times where I think um they try to make it like a negative connotation because I'll hear people say like, "Oh, that person's too black," like as if black people have a certain way that they behave, as if it's something bad. So, like, for example, I knew a white girl who was dating a black guy. She said she had to cut him off because he was too black. And I said, "What you meant by too black? What did you mean by too black?" And she said, "Well, he was lazy and he didn't get along with her parents or something." And I'm like, "Well, you have lazy people in all races." I'm like, "What you mean? So you're saying that black men are lazy? Is that what you're trying to say?" Did she was all like, "Oh no, I didn't mean it like that." I'm like, "Uh-huh. Sure you did. Sure you didn't." So, I do think that sometimes other groups of people will try to make it a negative thing, and sometimes people within our own race will try to make it negative too. Like, I remember hangout on BGS's stream where your guest yesterday, he was like, "What's wrong with talking white?" Or why do you have to talk black or something like that? Like, what's wrong with talking black? That's the question everybody else posed. So, you know, sometimes people think it's a negative thing.
Okay, well, I think like for me, blackness is just belonging to the African diaspora when we're talking about people. So when I hear black guy, black girl, black kid, all those full of black people, I just think they are somewhere from the African diaspora. So I mean, at that point, it doesn't give me anything else. It doesn't tell me are they, from America, African American? Are they from Jamaica, Africa, somewhere on the continent, or somewhere else in the West Indies? Like, it doesn't give me more information, but what it does is, to me at least, it tells me that they belong to the greater group of people that I belong to. So that's what at least to me, when I hear black, like I know. And I agree with Katz, obviously, that there are a lot of negative connotations that and stereotypes that are put on black people. So, when they hear the word black person or whatever, there may be negative connotations attached to that for them, or they might be using it to try to infer, draw up a stereotype. But like for me, it's just kind of like a sense of belonging. So, for example, because I live somewhere we are such a minority overall, like it will be like a thing like, oh, we're invited to this party. Okay, is the party like black people or white people? And like white people in that case is like, is it going to be corny and kind of alternative, rock and like rock on guys? Like, is it going to be that kind of party? Is it going to be black people? Because I'm not really down for like a white people party today, right? Like, so to me, in a lot of ways, when they say black people, it's like, yay, black people. Like, I don't even ask at that point. Is it rap? Is it reggae? Is it soca? I don't even give a shit what the music's going to be, what the food's going to, because I know it's my people. So I'm willing to go to a party with my people. So I think it's a little bit different for me because it's like a yay every time I hear black people. But yeah, so.
When I think of black, same things they said. It's really not much of a different answer to really be given. The differences may be in how we feel. It really doesn't bother me about the black because sometimes you have to. Sometimes that's the only identifier you can use when somebody's trying to call your attention to someone or something like that. Um, I will say this, even though this might not be the question you're asking, I prefer to be black over African American. And this was a big source of contention at my old company. I was one of the people who started our African American affinity group at the company. And I was at that time, and I was at the headquarters on the East Coast. And in that building of let's say it was about 200 people in the building, it was probably only 3 black folks. So then I'm talking to people around the country because we had to do it that way. And we had a big argument about, are we going to be the African American? Like, what do we call ourselves?
We lost you there for a second.
Can you hear me?
Lost you. Yeah, we lost you there for. Well, I did. I don't know about anybody else, but I lost you for about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I can hear you still. So I don't know. Maybe your internet is kind of off.
Yeah, well, I got those ghetto ghosts inside got those ghetto ghosts inside of my my equipment. it. So go ahead.
That's the fifth unicorn.
Yeah.
So so we and I was the one that was like, we're black. I don't want to be called the African American Affinity Group. And then why not? I'm like, because I'm not I know white African Americans. I know
Mhm.
white people who are legit African Americans. They were born in South Africa and now they're over in America. And I felt like black is about the only thing we have that can't nobody else be. It's no way for you to take this too or become part of this as well if you're not it. You know what I'm saying? And apparently I lost the battle because it's African American Network, but that's because everybody want to be PC. You know what I mean? And shit like that just really doesn't bother me. And the reason why it probably doesn't bother me because I reserve the right to call you a crack ass cracker, and I don't want nobody to say shit. So I don't really get caught up on that because I don't want to be policed about the words. I said that to be facetious with the crack ass cracker, but you get my point. I don't want to be policed in how I choose to refer because I'm not perfect. And I don't, so I choose not to. Now, however, I will check you in your shoes and take that opportunity to educate you because I'm not afraid of confrontation if it goes that far. But I really don't get caught up on that. And another thing I wanted to add was that in Chicago, we're extremely segregated. It's like you got the black folks, the white folks, the Chinese folks, and the Mexicans. Of course, we got everything else, but them the four main, and we're in our pockets of the city. Very, very segregated. When I went to the East Coast, though, I learned that it's more to than just black. You can't just look at a person and say, oh, they're just black. I was able to learn and look at people and say, oh, they're from this part of Africa, or where they're from the West Indies, or this person is Haitian, you know? So again, that's the reason why I kind of just say, well, let's just be black, you know, because that's about all we can be being in America of this skin, of these multiple skin tones. We're black unless we come up with some other creative ass way to say it, but it really doesn't rub me the wrong way at all. Unless you call me like that black bitch. Other than that, I mean, if you call me black, it's what it is. I'm black.
Mm.
Is that the question? The question is, what is black, or how do we feel about being called black?
I don't know. I
Um,
just took it there.
well, I had asked, what do you think? What does it mean to you when someone says someone or something is black?
Um, I assume that they are referring to a person or group of people who are from this country, who share our skin tone, because they may or may not know the difference between us and an African. And there is a difference. People trying to make it not a
Hmm.
difference. It's a big difference. I'm down with everything that Ming said. I prefer to be called black because I am not an African American. Black is what we are, or what we have to be, because we were stripped of a continuous culture, and we were stripped of a language, a spirituality system, and everything else. And so now we were a completely different civilization of people. We're an offshoot, but we're a different um, civilization of people now. We basically were reset. So they reset the clock on a whole group of people. And now we have to kind of build from the ground up. I prefer to be called black because there is no black land. There's
Mm.
no Blacklandia. There is no place to go to. Because so it defines us in a way, and it also describes how lost we are as a people, how broken we are from a homeland or a mainland. So I prefer to be called black. People from, you know, um, West Africa can come over here. They're African American, like legit. They were from Africa. They can go back to it. They came to America to work or live or do whatever, and they are African American. I am not African American. Any black person here that are the descendants of the slaves that were brought here, you are black. And you can say what you wanna, but you're black because you ain't got no land to go back to. You black.
Well, I would have to agree. Um, I don't like being called African American either. I never kind of subscribe to that. I'd prefer that you'd call me black, because I know an African American. I mean, my man from Senegal. I talk about him often, on my platform. He's from Senegal. He has dual citizenship. I mean, he was born in Senegal. He's been in this country, I guess about 15 years now, but he goes back like every, year. He goes back, and he's an African American. I mean, he's from Africa and he has American citizenship. I do not. I just have straight American citizenship. So I don't consider myself to be now, if you were to call me a black American, I'd probably be more prone to that than you calling me an African American. Because
Agreed.
if you took me over to Africa, I wouldn't know what the hell to do. I'd just be there. It'd probably take me like 6, 7 months just to get accustomed to the damn lifestyle. But you know, uh, when I think when I think black, and like Katz was saying, a lot of times we often say, you know, all right, well, we're going to this store, and someone will say, oh, it's a black store. So when you say a lot of times, because black means so many different things to so many different people. You know what I'm saying? It
Mm-hmm.
means so many different things to so many different people. And you hear somebody say, it's a black store. When they say that, you automatically start thinking whatever you have, whatever predisposed thoughts you have in your mind about black people, black things, or blackness, they automatically fill your head when you say something like that. When you say, oh, it's a black neighborhood, or it's a black restaurant, or
Mm-hmm.
it's a black store. What I've told you, whatever preconceived notions you have about blackness or black people or black things, they fill your head. I know it does with me. When someone says, "Oh well, it's a black store," I go right to thinking, "Oh God, I'm gonna go in there.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't gonna have the shit I want. I'm gonna have to." You automatically go to thinking that, and I guess that we've been conditioned. I
Mm-hmm.
know me. I've been trying, and I say we because I've been trying to break myself out of that shit. I really have. I've been
It's
trying to
happening.
I'm trying to break myself out of that shit where when someone say, it's a black store or a black whatever, it's a black deli, I try to get out of the damn, negative kind of stereotypical thoughts that I often have when I'm associated with that. But as black people, we know that a lot of times when something has a black curve to it or a black tinge to it, we often run into these things. We often run into these things. We often run into things that may not necessarily be, up to speed. We run into things where, it's ghetto. I know down here a lot of the stores where they have black ownership. The stores, there's usually a bunch of dudes hanging out in front of it, drinking beer, smoking weed. Dudes are in the store hanging out. Shit you don't see in other stores. You have a tendency to see them shits at our stores. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
now people get mad at that shit, but they know it's true. Yeah, they know that shit true. So me personally, I'll say again, I'm trying to break myself out of thinking that way when someone tells me that. Now, I don't hear that often, I don't hear it that often, but when I do hear it, I know that they're saying, when they say to me, oh man, it's a black store, what they're telling me is that it's not a good store. They're telling me
Mm-hmm.
that it's a store where people are standing outside smoking weed and playing music in the parking lot and breaking bottles and shit. That's what they're telling me, but they're just not saying it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know who's worse. I don't know if I'm worse because when they tell me I think that way, or them telling me and they think that way. So, but let me get to this. Um, Now we talked about what it means, when people say black. So I'll ask you ladies, to kind of piggyback off of what I was just saying. when you ladies think about blackness, well, I know Lady Classic said when someone says it's a black party, she knows there's going to be reggae or rap or jazz or so. She thinks that.
It's gonna be big fun with the ratchet.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you ladies think when someone comes to you and they say, well, it's a black XYZ?
Whatever.
Yeah.
To your point, to the point you were just making, we've kind of been conditioned to automatically go negative a little bit. I think it's conditioning, but also I think that a lot of it is because our black brothers and sisters have cut so many corners in the past. We've kind of built this negative connotation for ourselves, and I'm saying we in a generalized way, all of us as a whole. I'm not going to say who, what, whatever, but I feel like we did it to ourselves a little bit too. I mean, where did nigger rig come from? You know, nigger rigging, and I know that that's a backhanded compliment, because nigger rigging meaning that you're gonna also use your ingenuity and innovation to come up with a creative way to make it work, but it also means you're going to slap some shit together and make it work. You know what I mean? So when somebody tells me it's a black this, that, and the third, I have to go another level deep. Where? You know what I'm saying? Because we're not all bad, or we don't all operate and party and do things the same way. So I have to now find out location for me. Saying it's black isn't a bad thing. I have to find out what kind of black folks is there. You know what I mean? Before anything, what kind of black store? What kind of, where's this party at? Oh, the party on 63rd and Halsted? Okay, I'm not going to be there. Or, or whatever. Oh, it's on the west side off of Independence. I won't be there either. Little stuff like that. But as far as, it's black this, black that, it really don't, it doesn't rub me the wrong way. And especially I feel like over the last few years, I'll say maybe the last 10, we've kind of gotten a little bit away from that. And especially with everything going on, it's kind of giving me more of a sunnier disposition when people say, oh, it's a black owned business. Oh, word, let's go in there and support, unless they do something that says they don't deserve our support. But then at that point in time, it's not because you're black, it's because you're a poor business person, or you have a poor disposition, or you're just a stupid ass person, so you don't deserve our support. It has nothing to do with your color. So for me, it really, again, I'm probably one of those people. I didn't encounter a lot of racism. To be quite honest with you, in my 39 years on this earth, I haven't encountered a lot of racism at all. Overt. I'm sure I've encountered a lot of racism I didn't quite understand, see, recognize, or acknowledge, but overtly, I haven't been through a lot of things that has hardened me in that way. And I've always taken things as at face value, like people. I don't pigeonhole or put you in a box because you share like attributes with somebody else who did this to me. I don't really think that way, because that's a really bad way to live. It puts you always on the defense. It's almost like you can't do anything, go anywhere. I don't want to live a skeptical life, because it's like it'll kill you, if you feel that way. So I really don't subscribe to that. Really, I go a little deeper. I got to find out a little bit more about these black folks and black things and black people to make my judgment. It won't solely just be off of the fact that it's black.
To me, it depends on what the X, Y, and Z is. So, like, if somebody says it's a black business, a lot of people might automatically assume that it's gonna be like a lower quality business. So you'll have like a lot of customers who will try to get discounts and stuff. Where they'll try to, you know, try to get over on the business any way they can. And sometimes, the businesses aren't up to par. Sometimes they are, but people still try to get over on them, and sometimes they're not. So people feel like they can do whatever they want. Um, if it's like a black party, you could automatically assume that it's going to be more fun. Or if it's like a black restaurant, it might be better food than any other restaurant. So it depends. Like, I think with more leisurely things, black people have positive connotations, but like when it comes to business, black people have a bad rep. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I gotta say, and I mean, anyone to people have heard my story regarding this past couple of years of my life and employing Black business owners, and how much they have literally ruined everything from my wedding to my house. So, with that being said, though, I don't and this is it's a common problem for me at least, whereas and I say, you know what, there is an issue regarding businesses. When you hear it's a black business, and when I say a business, I don't necessarily mean a brick and mortar place. I mean uh services rendered and so on and so forth. There's a bad rap there, and it's normally because we have a few experiences, normally a personal referral or friend of a friend or even a family member or something like that, where we've hired a black business to do a job and it was done poorly. We had bad business practices, something like that. And then what we do is because we are so used to looking down on our own race and wanting to stereotype negatively our own race, it's almost like we're looking for an excuse to do so. The second we have that one bad experience with that one bad business, then they're all terrible. And now I am talking about four particular black businesses, all within a very short period of time, literally ruined my wedding. Like it's something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. And, despite the fact that I might want to light her on fire sometimes, I don't look at that and say, well, all black businesses are therefore terrible, because I've got to go back and think back and be like, oh, wait, hold on. My interaction with black businesses has been 200 of them in the past, say, 10 years. And sure, these four bad experiences went bad right now, but how many of them globally have gone badly? So I'm actually, and again, this may be just because I don't live in America under the same things that Black Americans do. Whereas and also it may also be the fact that I have a place outside. So for us, we are Jamaican. We are Jamaican first, and we go to Jamaican businesses. When you say it's a black business, normally when we say that to each other, we're meeting Jamaican. If it's something outside of Jamaican, we tend to clarify and say it's African or it's, whatever. So with that being said now, I do actually trust black businesses, and I give black businesses my business first and foremost. I don't really trust white businesses. I feel like they will intentionally overcharge me. I feel like, as in, if they were going to say, they're offering a 10% discount to everyone, and then they get to my house and suddenly they're not offering it anymore. It's almost like I got to pay an extra tax because I'm black and they're going to give me a service. Then they don't give a good enough service. And when I complain, it's almost like they feel like, how dare I, because I'm black. So, I just feel like at the end of the day, I could get that from a black person, but I would much rather get it from a black person than get it from some white person. I would rather waste my money on a black person's services than on a white person's services. Very simple for me. So when I think about, oh, it's a black owned business or whatever, I'm willing to give them a shot. I would rather give them a shot because I would rather have a business relationship with a black company a million times to one over any other racist company. Now, with that being said, I also, for example, my mechanic is black. And, I got hooked up with my mechanic because I needed to pass one of those emissions tests. And I knew that I couldn't because my light was on. And so, I needed someone who would turn off the light for me and do whatever so that way I could go past the emissions test real quick, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit shady, but at the end of the day, that's the thing. When, you have this, this is kind of like it's our own, I'm going to help out my own. Whereas in when I asked, I can't remember which, it was like I think they were Bulgarian maybe, owned a mechanic shop. They were going to charge me like $500 to turn off the light for 5 seconds for me. So, it just went to show. But that being said, because, he was like, hey, I'll give you the hookup. Don't worry about it, girl, whatever. And then you know what? The amount of business I brought him and the amount of business that I've referred from other people. And of course, I was a referral from someone else who was a referral from someone else and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of, I think, positive connotations, especially, I guess, Black Canadians going to Jamaicans, first of all. And, it's not just with the businesses. Black Party, to me, yeah, there's gonna be some weed, there might be a couple people with guns, there's gonna maybe be some drug selling and whatever, but it's gonna be more fun. The music is gonna be better. It's gonna be live, you know, um, and be with my people. And so I don't know. There are some things that you mentioned, Brother X, like, oh, there's gonna be some people standing outside the store smoking weed or doing this or doing that, and those things aren't really problems for me. Like those are things like when I pull up and I see that, I don't know, I just kind of get this sense like that I don't know, like I'm just comfortable with that. Like, okay, yeah, sure, they're chilling. All right, cool. Like it's not a problem for me. And I think that that is an issue that we have is we think everything's a problem because I think that we are comparing ourselves to other groups, other races in the way that they choose to do things or not, and saying, well, if it's not conducted the way they do it, then it's not good enough. And I just don't think that we should be trying to hold ourselves to that standard because I know for sure that in Jamaica, not being held to that standard, and successful businesses are still successful, whether or not they've got a couple kids hanging outside, not harming anyone and whatever, who are willing to come in and help people carry their stuff out to their car for free, heavy stuff or whatever. You're not kicking them out because hey, you're loitering. Like we got to stop comparing ourselves to other groups because overall, when you say it's a black something, and this has been my whole life, and it doesn't matter if I'm in America, if I'm in Canada, if I'm in Jamaica, that's what the thing I want to do. That's the thing I want to support. That's the place I want to go.
Lady Kendra.
I don't know. Can I repeat the question again? I forgot what it was.
I said that a lot of times when someone comes to you and they say, oh, it's a black, XYZ, whether it be a store or a restaurant or a deli or a cleaners for that matter, what what do you associate with that when someone says that?
Well, I tend not to associate or think too hard on it one way or another. I think it's more what Katz was trying to say. Kind of depends on what it is. As if it's a black owned business, I'll patronize that business because I want to do that. I feel like we don't do enough of that and it is needed. However, I will say this. I do kind of go into a black business with a little bit of a side eye because we have a reputation, at least in my experience, of being able to have really good product or services, but not really good customer service.
Mm,
For example, there's a black owned bakery not far from me called Give Me Some Sugar. Awesome stuff in there. Horrible customer service. The bakery is awesome. I've only eaten out of there once, but I won't go back again because they just have poor customer service skills. It's not even a pleasant thank you and please come again or whatever verbiage you want to use. It almost seems like, well, we've got a bakery, so you better come in here and patronize it. Like, I don't gotta patronize it. I know how to make this stuff. I can make this stuff at the house. I just come here to patronize it because it's a black owned business. Now, conversely, there's another restaurant, a vegan restaurant called Majani, which is right around the corner from me. Awesome customer service and awesome food. So I tell everybody about going there because I know that they're going to get very good vegan dishes, and they're also going to get very good service. The waiters and waitresses are very kind. The chefs, who are actually the owners, are very nice, and it's a clean place, a good place to be. So, I do kind of have a bit of a side eye with black businesses, but because we just kind of have poor customer service a little bit. But if it's I don't really go to parties and all that kind of stuff. But if it's a party like Ming said, if we on 63rd and nastiness, you can count me out. Not going over there to
mm,
get shot.
Mm-mm.
Talking about a party in K Town, I ain't
Mm-mm.
going over there to get shot either. So it's gonna be a no. Girl, you can meet me at my house. No, I can't.
Mm-mm.
You know,
Mm-mm.
um, not coming over there to a house party in Inglewood. It just is not gonna
Mm-mm.
happen.
Yeah,
Because we
well,
get up to a lot of mess. So, but other than that, I don't really have strong feelings about it one way or another.
yeah, well, I want to let's stay on that for a minute because I mean when cuz I'm a black business owner myself, okay? I own a power mechanic shop. And I think my customer service is pretty damn good, by the way. Uh but a lot of times, and it's not so much, this is the thing. This is the thing here where I am. It's not so much the black owned businesses where you get the worst customer service. It's actually the white owned businesses where black people happen to work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, and I've talked about this on this show many, many times before. That you get some of the shittiest customer service from black folks when you go in the
Mm-hmm.
store. I know, and I be in these big box stores because I go to places like Lowe's, Home Depot, Harbor Freight. I'm in those stores all the time because I have to, I'm back and forth in there for shit that I need, tools, supplies, shit for my shop. I'm always in these stores. So it's not like this is just some one trip I made there in the last 6 months and I happen to get a bad a bad a bad
Mm-hmm.
cashier. No, I'm in these stores all the time. Trust me, it's all the time. If one of you was to come with me to the store and see how they were, you'd be like, God damn, X, why do you still come to this store? And the reason is because it's close to my shop. So I put up with the shit. But like I said, a lot of times you get the worst customer service from places where black people happen to work at. And it's more so the women. And I know I'll probably catch some heat for this, but it's the truth. I get very shitty service from black women. If I go into a store and some brothers are there, we'll shoot the shit and I talk shit to them and crack a few jokes and then it's all good. But if I happen to go into one of those stores and I'm standing in front of the counter and it's a black female behind that counter, I already know what I'm getting. Yeah, I already know. Now
Mm,
I don't know if that's my prejudice.
no.
I don't know if it's from
Nope.
the experience that I've had, the experiences that I've had over the course of many years, but I kind of know what I'm getting and I know what to expect when I get to the counter. Now, every now and then I'm surprised. Every now and then, I may walk into somewhere like like a Pizza Hut or something like that. I may walk in there and there's a black girl behind the counter and they may not be, have they nose in the air and looking at you like you just walked up and throw battery acid in their face and shit. You may not get that, but when I get that, I'm surprised. I mean, when I get that kind of service, I mean, I come out the store and if I'm like with my wife, I'm like, oh, she was really nice, the girl. Yeah, because I'm so surprised. I'm
Mhm.
so surprised. So I say that to say this because a lot of times I think we do have a tendency to be a little prejudiced. We've gotten to a point where, because I believe that we as black people, some of the most prejudiced people on the planet, especially when it comes to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our prejudices are based on our experiences, though. When we talk about black prejudice, I think a lot of it is based on our experiences. If we had more positive experiences with our people, we probably wouldn't be so quick to judge our people because that's where your prejudices usually come
Well,
from, unless you're just an idiot. So,
what can I ask?
right?
Let me ask this question because you're right. But is our okay, before I ask the question, let me preface it by saying why I'm asking the question. Because in my experience, I can't pinpoint a specific. Only thing I could pinpoint is that men are easier to work with than women when you're dealing in the customer service capacity. But
Yep.
in terms of race, I've dealt with some ignorant everything, okay? Everything from Indian, white, Asian, it don't matter. All of them, black folks, and some people know where I used to work, and I dealt in the customer service capacity, so I know what y'all talking about because I've seen some of them ghetto heifers that's on the other end of the phone that you're calling in to talk to. So you're not lying, but at the same time, I had just as ignorant as coworkers who were other ethnicities as well too. You know what I mean? And then when I was on the other end of giving you the customer service, I never had no issues out of black folks or Hispanics. It was always the white folks I always had to put out or cuss out or check or, whatever the case may be, or stop them dead in their tracks and then turn this conversation back around so we can get positive. It was always the white folks. But anytime, more often than not, whenever I encounter black girls or women and I'm the customer, I've actually had really pleasant experiences if I want to take the totality of all the experiences. And now, mind you, I've been paying my own. I moved out my mother's house at 17. So we talking over 20 years worth of me dealing with people in customer service or trying to handle business with people in customer service or whatever. So I wonder if then now leads to my question to your point is, are we giving the black people a hard time or putting them up to another standard of service that we expect because we're black, or two, do we also judge them harshly or already have preconceived notions because we deal with black folks all day long because that's who we're around, that's who we're raised around, that's our culture, so we know just how ignorant and nasty and bad dispositions they can have. So it's like almost kind of like, are you creating the experience on your own because that's what you expect to experience? You understand what I'm saying a little bit?
I get it.
Because I personally, my own personal experiences, I can't say that I've had a harder time with black folks over any other race because I will be lying. It was an Indian girl that I had to threaten to snatch her through the McDonald's window. She wasn't black. You know
Oh
what I mean?
God.
Oh my God, y'all. Just a sidebar. I pulled
Them
my car up,
Indians
came
be
back.
getting crazy.
Girl, they
They
are
get
out off the
crazy.
chain at McDonald's. I had to walk up, tell the person in the drive-through in their car, give me a second, knock on the window and check her ass. And tell I did, because the bitch gave me a half a box of fries.
Hey, bitch, you
A
Mm.
back there
half a
eating
box of fries.
fries and giving me a half a box of
You know what
fries.
I'm saying? And when I tell her, where's the rest of my fries, I pull the box out the bag, it's half full, but that's all we give because we weigh them. And I'm like, I've been in this country longer than you've been. I mean, I told her, I've been eating McDonald's longer than you've been in this country, bitch. I know this is more fries than this. You
We're
know?
not going to give you any more fries. This is the only amount of fries that we are allowed to
Oh
give
my
at
God.
McDonald's.
So I
Oh
pulled
my
Allowed
up
to
and she
give you
God.
more
told
fries at McDonald's
You're really good at that accent because
because
that's
I
I
was
exactly
know,
given
how
a
it
box
isn't
of
sounds.
she?
fries.
Oh my God. And I had to pull my car up. I knocked on the other people. They were white. So I said, excuse me 1 second. I knocked on their windows, drive through 10 o'clock at night. Like, say that again. Say that to my face. She gave me another box of fries. And they was in the car laughing. But my point is, I haven't had to do that to a black girl. It wasn't a black girl I had to tell to pick my money up off the counter and put it in my hand the same way I gave it to you. You see what I'm saying? It was a
Oh
white
yeah, I've
bitch.
had that happen to me
So
from a white person.
but it has been a sister when I was going through mortgage issues many years ago on my condo who gave me the whole layout of the land and walked me through everything, line item by line item to help me out. It was the white girl when St. Martin, we on the timeshare in St. Martin. It was the white one, the St. Martin's been devastated. And now when I called my timeshare company to talk about the next step, it was the white woman that I had to got hung up on and had to cuss out on her voicemail. But when I called back to corporate, it was the black woman that I cried with over the phone. You see what I'm saying? Because my mother was in St. Martin when the whole thing took place, and I hadn't cried about it or nothing. She's safe and everything, but it was the black woman who, when I was talking to her about why I'm so upset, that allowed me to cry and gave me her personal number if I had to call, and she'll keep me up to date. So I don't, in my personal, I'm just one individual of many, but those are the experiences I've had. So I
I th-
wonder, do we create them because we
Well,
well,
think they're gonna
Ming,
happen?
I think it depends on what neighborhood maybe a store or certain business might be in. Cause like when I used to cashier, I saw it on both sides how
Mhm.
black customers act and how black customer service people would act. But then I'd also see how like white people would treat certain people. I'd see how they treat the Asians and all that. Like I've had a lot of people like when I used to cashier, I had a lot of people come up to me mean mugging because they thought I was I guess they thought I was gonna give them poor customer service because like a lot of the other girls in there gave poor customer service. They wouldn't say hello to the customers. Um
Mhm.
they wouldn't bag the groceries or anything. I mean, they just sit there and roll their eyes and give them the change. But then at the same time, I've met white people who are just as rude when they're doing cashiering. Like if I go to like the Walmart in Kenner, which is uh what my grandma calls the white Walmart, you know, they're very rude to me sometimes. Like they can be, because again, like what you said, uh these people, you give them money, they get the change back, they want to put it on the counter. I'm like, I put my money in your hand, why can't you give me my change in my hand, you know? And so there might be something to what Ming is saying, but yeah, I can see it and from like a whole different, like a whole bunch of different angles.
Well,
Mhm.
I was gonna say that um it has like, I don't know, I guess it has a lot to do with geographical location. I guess it has a lot to do with who's ever serving you.
Mhm.
It has a lot to do with their experiences. And if you're on
Mhm.
the other side of it, say you're a cashier and you're dealing with someone, it has to do a lot with their experiences as
Mhm.
well. Because as people, we all have some prejudice. I mean, that's just the way it is. We have some. Um, but as black people, when black, well, let me say this, because there's so many different levels of black. All right. I mean, you could be black and be Indian, you can be black and be Jamaican, you can be black and be from
Mhm.
Senegal, you can be black and be from, Nigeria,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
there's so many. You can be black and be from America, you could be light skinned black, you could be dark skinned black, you can be, there's so many different levels of black. Now, some people consider, like Lady Cats was talking about earlier, you know, talking black versus talking white. Now, when you put the black connotation on something, it usually means that it's more urban. It's more progressive. There's a ebonics kind of level to it when you say, because a lot of times I tell people, when I'm talking, because I talk about the show and I talk about other things on media, but you could just imagine what people around me go through, right? So I tell them all the time, I'm like, stuff, when you're in the main media, you can have a place in mainstream media as long as you don't talk that black stuff, you know.
Mhm.
And when I say black stuff, what I'm saying is stuff that concerns black people. Now,
Mhm.
when I tell them this, they may think that I'm talking about, smoking weed, hip hop music, and pants sagging off the ass and stuff like that. But really, I don't, because that's not the stuff we talk about on our shows. When I
Mhm.
say black stuff, I'm talking about stuff that concerns black people. So this brings me to my next question. What do you ladies consider black stuff? I mean, what is black stuff? When you think, if someone was to come up to y'all right now and say, well, I see y'all, on y'all Unicorn 4 platform every Wednesday, and I was wondering, do y'all always talk black stuff? What would that mean to y'all if someone says black stuff?
I guess it would mean that if we were speaking about issues that were unique to Black people or unique to the Black experience. That's why it's the Black part of YouTube, which I lovingly dub the Chitlin Circuit. And then there's Black Twitter. What the heck? Why am I so popular all of a sudden? Anyway, ignoring that. You've got Black Twitter and all of this kind of stuff because we're discussing things that are not so general that everyone can kind of lend their experience to. It's a little bit more specific and it concerns our experiences of the world, which people try to act like that it's not unique. It is. Our experience is unique as a people. The things that we go through, we can relate no matter where we're from, no matter what part of this country we're from. We all had a similar childhood. We all, you know what I'm saying? Like we can talk about, when your mama used to tell you go in there and get the belt and you be trying to avoid that at all costs, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. Had to be at home before the street lights came on when you was little. We share that experience. You know what I'm saying? Like we share that stuff. Little white kids, they can't say that. They, we knew that you was gonna get a spanking or whooping, whatever you want to call it, when you was little if you back talked your mama. It was just that was the way it was. You was not gonna get nowhere in public and do nothing to your mama. White kids could go to the mall and throw a tantrum in the floor. It's different, So
kick,
that's what I mean
kick
by
mom. They could kick mom in the shins.
right. All about a toy. So that to me is we're talking about Black stuff. We're talking about things that are kind of specific to either specific to us or our experiences of those things.
Yeah, what Kendra said. If we wanted to give a specific, but to be honest, not a but because that negates everything before it. In addition to that, I think that everything is ours. That's the way I operate in this world because let's be honest, we could move in a lot of circles. They try to make us feel like we can't, but the truth of the matter is they can't and we can. Hair, that's Black. Whatever you can do with your hair, white woman, I could do with mine. Whatever, products you use, I can use or something better. All this is Black shit. Oh, my house, my neighborhood, that your neighborhood, Black, I can come over there and do that too. We put flavor on every damn thing. So to me, the whole world is my oyster, and anything I talk about is Black shit. Anything you talking about is Black shit. I mean, let's be real. We invented most of it. We built the rest. You taking all of your cues, social, all of your beauty cues, you taking them from us. So to be honest, this is all Black shit.
It's true.
That's how I feel about it anyway. And that's how I walk around this world like I run it. You know what I mean? And I don't feel uncomfortable having, like, one time I went skiing and I was the only Black person. I mean, and it was a whole bunch of people, Indian, German, whatever. And I held court. They around me like I'm the goddamn Jesus and came back down trying to figure out Black stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't mind because I feel like sometimes if I can educate you, it breaks down barriers. You know what I mean? But all of this is Black stuff to me. So it's really when you say Black stuff, what are they talking about? Everything. Black Twitter is off the chain. It is off the chain if you're not over in it. But let's be real. Anything we touch, we turn Black. Even if we step a toe into white Twitter, it is now Black Twitter. If we come over there, anything we touch is Black. So that's how I view it. And I know that y'all might be saying, well, Ming, you kind of got your heads in the clouds because that's not true. Well, I don't know what to say to that because that's my truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of Twitter, you might want to hit me up because I need some followers, y'all. That's at TPOT Media on Twitter, at TPOT Media. I told y'all the other night, follow me on Twitter or I will haunt you in your sleep. Carry on, unicorns.
To me, Black stuff is things that we talk about that would specifically, I guess, or mostly affect us or would affect us heavily. Um, and like how people talk to me, and when I'm out and about, and if I talk about a certain a subject, if somebody tells me, "Oh, you talking that black stuff again," to me, it sounds like they're just saying what people would call militant back in the 60s, I guess. Which I don't really get because I'm like, okay, how could you not be worried about politics or gentrification or, not having any money and stuff, like black people being some of the poorest people or just not managing their money well, all of a sudden, oh, you talking that black stuff again. But like take somebody to a black business and I'm like, oh, this person makes really good food. That black stuff again. So like it's kind of like the equivalent of what people used to call militant, I guess, back in the day. So they try to make it sound negative, but I don't think there's anything wrong about talking about black stuff. They need to get over it.
Yep.
We was the first black family on my block. Guess what happened? That became a black block. It's true. We were. We was the first in the 80s when we moved in that neighborhood. We were the first black family on that block. And our neighbors were nice. They were all white. I remember Barbara next Pat. Her name was Pat, and gave my brother a train. And, the white lady 2 doors down, we left our lights on, called us. But guess what? Also at the dead of night, somebody threw a brick through our window. So that block became black. We were the first black family there. That's why I say everywhere we go, anything we touch becomes black stuff. And the problem is they know it. And they're trying to spend all their time, energy, money, and resources for us to not know it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I guess when I hear someone say that, so like for example, and this is something that I've noticed a lot, is that if you are a black Canadian, then you are normally somewhere between first and third, at least in Ontario. You are somewhere between first and third generation Canadian. So you have an identity and a culture and often a language that is outside of Canada. So with that being said, they come here. Canada is very different than America. So it is actually really, really easy for you to walk around and just be unaware of a lot of things. So I actually know Black people who will say that to me. And when they say it, they mean issues. So they mean the police shootings or the racism or the this or the that, and it's the black stuff, right? Like, why are you talking about all the black stuff? Like, almost like it's like, why are you talking about all the depressing stuff? Why are you trying to focus on the negative? Why are you trying to focus on the differences? Why can't you focus on good things? Why can't you just focus on the things that we have in common with everyone, right? So I think when they're saying black stuff, they're literally talking about a perspective and an experience that they literally can't relate to, first of all. Second of all, that they don't really want to relate to. For Black people, it's the ones who want to stay, I guess the term would be blue pills, people who are just walking around unaware. You haven't been even been given the option of which pill do you want to take yet. Those people, they want to stay there. They don't want to look at everything too closely. They don't want to see the issues. They don't want to see the dysfunction. They don't want to know if their spouse is cheating on them or using them or whatever. They don't want to know all those things, right? And so when you look at them and they say like black stuff, that's exactly what it tells me. It's a bunch of people who don't want to be aware of just what's really going on, how it really is, what it really is. Because we could be talking about politics or we could be talking about shopping, we could be talking about anything. And they don't want us to congregate together on a platform, like let's say here, and speak together. Because when we do, we're going to start speaking about it when we're not in mixed company. We're going to be talking black stuff. Even if it's the exact same politics, now we're talking black stuff because we're going to be talking solely about politics and how it's impacting our community, how it's impacting our children, how it's impacting our neighborhoods and whatever. Because, yeah, we can care globally because we're humans, we care about humanity, but immediately our main concern for us is us. And so, if we're going to get together, we're going to congregate and we're going to speak about us and how we can make things better, how we can identify issues because not everyone's aware. We're going to make people aware, we're going to identify issues, and we're going to identify solutions. And that's what Black stuff is ultimately. And it's threatening and it's terrifying to a lot of people for a variety of reasons. And when they say Black stuff, yeah, they want us to look down on ourselves for speaking Black stuff. I mean, God, now you can be a Black
Exactly.
a terrorist for, having a Black identity and wanting to be proud of it and wanting to speak about it and wanting to stay militant in your belief that you are Black first, right? So it's telling you right there, like Ming said, Black stuff is, at the end of the day, it's a threat to them. They don't want us walking around knowing that everything is Black stuff and everything can be Black stuff, and we should be looking at everything like it's Black stuff.
Hmm.
Yep. Next up.
I think that was all of us.
Was that the whole panel? Okay. Well, when I a lot of times as Black people, we often get that, those negative connotations kind of thrown at us. I've had people ask me, is something Black? Is it a Black party? Is it a Black neighborhood? Is it that just kind of comes with the territory, I guess. I mean, I guess it is what it is. I don't believe that in America, Black people will ever be accepted totally. I just don't believe that. So we're always going to have those kind of things thrown at us. I think the bigger issue is, how do we deal with it? And like I said before, do we have those prejudices? Do we have those preconceived notions about each other, the same ones that other people have about us? I think it's what's gonna make the difference is that we don't have those same prejudices and preconceived notions about each other that many other people may have, about us. I think that's what's going to eventually make the difference. I think at some point though, far as Black people are concerned, I believe that our future is going to be greater if we, as Black people, think a little more Black. And when I say think Black, I'm thinking, Black money, Black society building, Black children. I mean, I think, Black education, when I talk about think Black, I think we're going to be better off if we start thinking a little more Black. And thinking Black may not necessarily be a specific thing that you can say, well, this is Black and this is not. But we can build that construct. We can build the construct of what is Black. We could say, for example, Black businesses always hire Black people. We can say Black banks make sure they do everything they can to give Black folks loans. Y'all know where I'm going with it when I
In
say,
other words,
Black.
just kind of be a little bit more deliberate in how we live instead of
Exactly.
just living. Just be
Exactly.
a little bit, because you're kind of almost explaining me, like I said, walking around in a bubble. I didn't look at the world that way. YouTube has opened my eyes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I don't want to say open them, because I'm not walking around here with my eyes wide shut, but at the same time, it's made me understand how important it is to be deliberate in your Blackness, not just be
Mm-hmm.
Black, but be Black. You know what I'm saying? So to your point, I agree. I'm gonna just say I agree. We have to be a little bit more cognizant and deliberate. and the choices that we make, and make sure we're doing it for to put us in a better position than we were before.
Yeah, because that's going to defeat those things like that are going to defeat the negative connotations that come along with, black people. I mean, those are going to be the things that defeat it. Um, we've been joined by Brother Cerulean Gray. It's been a while since I had a brother on the panel with the unicorns. That used to be a thing. I have a brother on the panel with the unicorns. I haven't done it in a while, so welcome, Brother Cerulean.
Well, greetings, esteemed Prophet Xavier, uh, ladies of thought.
So, Brother
Hello.
Good
Cerulean,
evening.
let me ask you, brother, what
Indeed.
is black?
Well, first, to understand what black is, you have to come from the context that you are talking about forced identitarianism. Someone forced a identity on you. And they told you, this is what we're going to be. You get to be this. This is the system that we are creating, and this is your place in it.
Mhm.
This is kind of what I was alluding to when Absurdian was trying to say, you're trying to say that black people don't have any agency. Well, agency is a group property. It's something that is built by a group. I am strong because my people are strong. I am powerful because my group is powerful. And in that, when we talk about black folks, like for instance, with Corey Haywood, who wrote Coon Flakes, he tried to say we have to teach people how to think like conquerors. But you ask any one of these curmudgeons, what have they actually conquered?
Hmm.
And they have conquered nothing. And because they have conquered nothing, and therefore they have no power, therefore they have no agency. And if you have no agency, you're therefore black, which means that you are forced identitarian. You are what someone chose you to be, what someone relegated you to be in a system that they've created.
Well, I at times I think, because like you said last night, I had Obsidian on here, and I think the problem with us as black people, oftentimes we are so we're so divided on so many different levels. We're divided on ideology, we're divided on end goal, we're divided on ideas of where we should be as a people, whether it be socioeconomically or politically. We're often so divided. And I was saying this earlier, there's so many different levels, to being black and what that consists of. And I think that kind of hurts us because we don't have that kind of monolithic kind of, we don't really have that,
Yeah,
throughout the ranks of black
and
people.
what and what's so interesting about black people is that we're not even monolithic about one thing, right? Whereas you have all these other groups that we're constantly compared to, for instance, whites, Jews, Asians, Hispanics, Latinos, what have you. They're monolithic about one or even more things. Versus Jews, they're monolithic about the fact that they're Jewish. They're monolithic about the fact that they will have financial power. They will maintain sovereignty. I mean, they're monolithic about a number of things. Whites, they're monolithic about virtually everything. So when you hear people talking about racism, racism is a monolithic construct. It is held up by group participation. That's why you can, for instance, see some old footage of Jane Elliott, in which she was in an auditorium, and she asked the crowd, "Who in here wants to be treated like a black person?"
Mm.
Nobody stood up. And she asked, "Yeah, I don't think you guys heard me. Who in here wants to be treated the way we treat our black citizens?" And nobody stood up. And so that tells you very well that these are monolithic thinking people when it comes to the construct of racism.
Yeah, because racism couldn't exist if there was only one racist in the whole country. It couldn't really exist. So it has to be part of a system. Speaking of Jane Elliott, I actually had her on my show a while back. I interviewed Miss Elliott like it was like 3 years ago.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, did you really?
Wow.
That is so
Yes.
exciting. Like
Yes.
I really, really, I looked up
Hmm.
to her since I was a little kid because I think
Well,
what she did was incredible.
well,
I do.
I say this often on the old TPOT show. You might want to go into X's archives. You will be
Yeah.
surprised what you
Will
find
do.
in there. You will
For
be
sure.
surprised. Yeah, I did. Miss Elliott did come on my show. Miss Elliott was on my show when I was in a booth because I actually used to be. I worked at a radio station, and I was still in the booth. So it had to be at least two because I've been out of the booth for like 2.5 years now. So it was a little while. But it might even have been 2016. Yeah, 2016, somewhere in there. Yes, I think early 2016. But it is on the site though. It is on this very page that we are on right now. It is. It is. It
Oh,
is in there.
I will be going into the archive.
Yeah, it's in there. I,
Absolutely.
I tell everybody
Hmm.
all the time, you will be surprised what you will find in the old archives of TPOT. You'll
I
be
was just
surprised.
watching your video with Shahrazad Ali. Am I saying her name
Yep,
correctly?
yep, yep. Friend
Yeah.
of mine. That's actually a friend of mine. I've known Sister Ali for quite some time. She's actually a friend of mine. So
Beautiful woman.
yeah, she's supposed to be coming back. I actually just spoke to her when you talk about black. I just spoke to Sister Ali like 2 weeks ago. She's gonna come back on. She'll come whenever I ask her. I mean, she's been on my
She'll be the
show.
mother of the unicorn. She gave birth to it.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Love her.
absolutely. Yeah, she'll come on whenever I ask her. It's just that she's been really busy. She's got a new book, and she's supposed to be sending me an advance copy. So
Mm.
when I get the
What's the
advance
title of this
copy,
book? I have to put in a pre-order myself.
yeah, she's gonna send
Mm-hmm.
me an advance copy, and she said she wants me to read it. And she was like, "I want you to interview me on the book X." So we're trying to kind of set that up right now. You know, but
Well, I'd certainly be in the audience with bells on.
oh yeah,
Definitely.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I will say it again. Search the OTPO. Just peruse through the OTPOT archives. You will be surprised what you will find in there. Many jewels and treasures are buried within those archives. It's like a dungeon in a castle, just full of jewels and treasures, and just find your way through there. I tell people this all the time. Look through those archives. You will find something that you will like.
I
Okay.
like the gold pit on the Desolation of Smaug.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, man. You look down in there. I'm pretty sure you'll find something you like. I'm telling you. But yeah. So uh, black, the color. Okay. I think like Brother Cerulean was just saying, because I had spoke earlier, Brother Cerulean, and I said that when we were brought here, centuries ago, someone had to tell us that we were black. I don't think that we came over here saying, "Oh, we're black." I said from the photos that I've seen from many centuries ago, it looked like the people were so black they were blue. So we could have been calling ourselves blue people for
In-
all
in-
that. And I
Indeed, and see that's one of the elements of agency, right? To be able to choose your own identity,
exactly.
and to be able to hold that identity up with the collective power of your people who identify with. That is a very base element of cultural development. When I talk about black folks have never had a period of uninterrupted cultural development, that is what I'm talking about. We've had attempts. One of the greatest attempts was made by the prophet Elijah Muhammad. Um, great attempts made by such as Noble Drew Ali, um, in which we try to regain a sense of identity, which is a part of cultural development.
mm. Well, let me ask the unicorns this, then I'll go to you, Brother Cerulean. Why do you ladies think that of all the colors that they could have called us and labeled us and attached to us, why do you ladies believe that they chose black and not blue or brown or
Um, I think that they chose black because it is indicative of darkness, and if they wanted to be the biblical light, we had to be the opposite.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly
That's what
what
I
I was
think.
about to say. If white people are seen as the top of the top because they're the dominant society, then of course the exact opposite would be seen as the evil, the
Hmm.
bad, the everything wrong. But whatever.
I just think might have been a simple function of language. I mean, I have a strong suspicion that them calling us nigger was simply his inability to say negro, which the Spanish were simply
Mhm.
saying as a form of
Mhm.
description, and
Mhm.
he couldn't say negro, so he said nigger, and he couldn't figure it out, so it was nigger for him. You can just see a stupid slave master not knowing how to really say it and then getting mad and making his own word out of it. Um, so I think that was more just a function of description and language. Um, but and it morphed into a more as they learned how to break a person to make them psychologically be a slave. I think it morphed into what was just explained. Well, we're the biblical light, so you must be the darkness. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And in an effort to make us worship them and see them as better than us, that was a psychological uh programming that was done, which happened later on as they got better at enslaving.
mm,
Well, I mean, I agree with Kendra because I do remember actually looking it up and wanting to kind of know the origins. When did this whole nigger thing start and whatever? And there was, I guess, two plausible explanations. One, which is Niger, the country in Africa, and then obviously negro, meaning black. So one way or the other between those two. I do think it was just a matter of mispronunciation. And it was an easy description. You could just call these people instead of calling them people, they were the niggers. They were the black ones, right? So they weren't. You didn't have to call them humans or people, and you didn't have to call them slaves and make yourself feel bad about yourself because you had slaves. You didn't want to think about the fact that you were enslaving people. Why would you want to call yourself a slave master? They're not slaves. They're because you know what? Enslaving people is people, right? So, let's make them less than people. They are just this thing. We're going to identify them by a color, and we're going to identify them by this word, which is a slur, but to them, well, these aren't really people, so it's not really a slur. It's just a description of what they are. And, black,
Yeah.
well, black like tar, when you think about that term, well, where did we get that from? Well, when they used to whip the living shit out of you and you had those giant scars on your back and whatever, but no, it's time to trade. It's time to sell you because you know what? I've got to whip you one too many times. You're too hard to work with. What do? They cover up those terrible open wounds with tar, right? So you are literally black. You are that dark. And that was, I think it's just a matter literally of the function, description, and dehumanization. So when I don't think that they ever even, maybe at first when, they started stealing slaves, I think, they thought maybe it would end eventually, just like many of the other enslavements ended. I do think that, after hundreds of years, you're no longer the people who were born 300 years in. They're not looking at these things to them working out in the fields as people. They're less than people. You're not looking at them and thinking, oh, well, of course they could be educated, they could speak well, and they could do this and they could do that. We haven't given them the opportunity. right? Because you're being born and raised and being told different, and you have no reason to think otherwise. And the few that did, and tried to say, oh, teach one of the kids to read or whatever, the punishments were so severe and so swift for not only the child slave but also the person who taught him. That it because at the end of the day they didn't want proof that slaves were people. They didn't want proof that black people were black people. They're humans just like everyone else. Their skin color is the only thing that makes you different. And even after, post abolition, all you look at how many studies were conducted and how many books were written that were telling you that these black folk walking around, and sure they might look like people, but they're not really people. They're not really humans. That has been their whole thing. So I think at the end of the day, this term black versus white, as far as the demonization of what black means, yeah, we've always had those things in fairy tales and so on and so forth. It got applied later on because, again, it's a way of you being able to continually put this group of people into this lower tier of society in your mind and be able to look at them like they're less than people. They're, oh, the kid's running away after he stole something. It's okay for you to shoot him dead in the back because he's not really a person. He's not really a kid. He's just a thing. He's just black. He's just a nigger. That's it.
Brother Cerulean.
Well, we're talking about you know, black again. Um, how did we come to this? Well, I think we have to go back to Black's Law Dictionary. Um, Prior to racial classification, Black's Law Dictionary, there was no such thing as race. Um, what we consider race colors today in Britain were known as economic status. Economic status of a company or corporation. For instance, if you're at a white horse company, a company that is basically too large to fail, that is so intermingled and intertwined with government that if it failed, there's a possibility that it could collapse the government, the governing body. Black was basically a serf. Had no economic status. You're lacking economic upward mobility. You're basically a serf. No power, no structure. Um, you were an individual, and you could be bought out at any time. To be bought and sold like property. I mean, and a lot of that actually still plays into today's politics, right? Companies that operate in the black are at baseline. You know, to be operating in the white, that means you're doing good. That means you're doing so good that there's no possibility of any competitor coming to buy you out or collapsing your
Mm.
business. But a black company be bought and sold anytime. If you're always operating in a black, you're basically operating with your head barely above water. Unless you're operating in the red, in which you're on the verge of bankruptcy and you're ready for a sale. But what happened in the mid 1800s was along came a man named Johann Friedrich Blumenbach who used those colors and created what is the racial classification system. And said, well, this is what we're going to be, and then this is what you get to be. And that's how we ended up here.
Mm.
And when we're talking about it, the very fact that people still call themselves white is evidence of racism. Because before there was ever such thing as racial classification, people identified by landmass. But there's not one place on a map that you can point to that can tell you where white land is, or where black
White
land
land.
is, for that matter.
White land. Well,
There's not there's not a place on the map
far
that can
as
tell you where Latino land, Hispanic land is. There's no place on the map that exists with such classification.
well, far as we go as black people, um, because there's a revelation when you kind of realize that you're black. And a lot of times well, I guess it depends on your upbringing. Let me rephrase that. I guess it depends on your upbringing when you start to realize you're black. Let me ask you ladies this. Let me ask the unicorns this. When did you realize, ladies, that you were black? Because there had to be a revelation moment where you were like, I'm black. And also, did that revelation come by way of your parents sitting you down and saying, hey, look, you're black, right? So you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z to circumnavigate your way through this country.
Well, I always knew I was black. I mean, I guess I can say the first time I knew I was black is when I was told I had sickle cell. Um, the trait, I'm a trait. I carry the trait. I told you guys my daughter has the actual full blown disease, and I gave my sons, both of them have the trait because of me. So I was told that when I was 12. I remember that. Because that's something you need to know. I'm like my daughter's father. He had no clue. Nobody sat him down and told him. And now here we have a daughter with the actual disease. So I guess that would be the first time because that's primarily a black person. Some Italians and stuff like that can get it, Sicilians, but it's pretty much a black thing. But I'll be real, real, real honest with you. It didn't hit me about how black I was and about how I was perceived probably until after Trump won. And I know you may be like,
Okay.
what? You done lived around this country and you done did this, that, and the third. But like I told you guys, I'm the type of person who I walk to the beat of my own drummer. So I'm like, glue. What you say, I mean, that little saying, I'm rubber, you glue. What you say, bounce off me and stick to you. Like that, I'm like that type of person. So I really don't give a fuck what you think. But it wasn't until Trump won, because I worked in customer service, that I really realized what the hell was going on and what we living in. Working in customer service, dealing with people every day, face to face. I promise you, when that man took office, a switch flipped. And them motherfuckers started coming up in my place of business with a whole new attitude. No, let me rephrase that. The same attitude, they just decided to display it now. Okay. And I done told you guys a couple of instances where the girl didn't believe my name was Ming because I'm black. That's the type of shit that would have never went on 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I done had to kick a lot of white people out. I done had white people sit there and say sideways shit to me. Now all of a sudden they just all of a sudden like puffed out their chest and decided that they could say they're better than everybody else. So I'm gonna be honest with you. It really wasn't until then. I haven't cried as much about being black or being discriminated against or treated a certain way because I'm black until after Trump won. And I've cried at work about different things and everything. I told y'all about that instance when the white man gonna tell my manager that he want me to apologize, and I told my boss, I'll give you my badge and go out there and spit in that white man's face. I was there. I swear to God, I'm not lying. I'm not pumping it up or nothing. Those were my exact words verbatim. But that was because of the way he acted. They treated me. I had to tell this man. I know I'm sitting here with a name tag. I know I look young, but I'm older and I'm extremely educated. Like I had to really break this down to these white folks. And the truth is, it wasn't really even the younger ones. It's the old ones. I don't know if I told you guys about the time when the white man came in there and he referred to my black coworker as colored to me.
Colored.
He was sitting there. He was sitting in my office because I had my own office, and it was encased in glass, so you could see the whole rest of the store. And he sat in my office, and he was actually trying to like big us up, like every time I come in here, it's a great experience, and blah blah blah. The last time I was in here earlier this week, the girl that sit right there, she helped me, and I'm like looking at him a little bit to see what he gonna say, and I knew who he was talking about, but something inside of me said, "Don't say nothing." And he said, and he was hitting the desk trying to remember. He said, the colored girl. And I looked at him and he looked at me like, who I'm talking about? I said, well, you lost me a colored. He said, did I say something wrong? I said, yeah, you said something wrong. He said, I am so sorry. What should I say? What should I call you? And the education began. This man told me, he said he was 78, white man. He said, well, let me tell you something. I grew up in Virginia. I'm from Virginia, and I grew up in a time where there were no black people in the area. Most of my neighbors were racist and everything. He said, and I adopted a black girl, and my neighbors would come to me and say, "I did not know anything about black folks until you adopted her, and she's so adorable, etc., etc." He said, "All her life, I have been referring to black people as colored, and she has never once said anything."
Well, I
And
guess she wouldn't know.
I'm like, well, I said, well, she probably didn't say nothing out of the love for you because your love probably was in stark contrast to your words. But every time you called this black woman a colored person or referred to black people as colored, you chipped away at her little by little. When he left, he thanked me. He said, "I'm so sorry, and I want to thank you for having this conversation with me because I'm going home right now to call her." That's what he said. But those were the type of conversations I started having after fucking Trump won. After Trump won,
Mm.
I promise you. I mean, and it was it got so bad. I mean, I would go in the back and cry and stuff. Like, I can't believe I just went through that, or had to check this person, or had to say these things. Because even if you're as tough as nails as I am, it still depletes you once the experience is over. You know. So
Mhm.
that's what I was saying when I really realized. And then coming on to YouTube, before Trump won, but at the same time, but still coming on to YouTube and just seeing everything that's going on, I'm really getting my education kind of like right now. A little bit. I mean, literally, not just, secondhand, sitting up there talking about Dream Dream, Dr. King when we singing it at school, and stuff like that, and all that stuff that you learn. I'm talking about firsthand, real hand in my face. It wasn't until after Trump won.
Mm.
So,
I think
so you just
I,
realized that you were black.
Dang.
Just just
I
uh,
think I realized it about third grade. Went to a white school. Um, growing up in the hood. In third grade, what are you, 8 years old? And I went there with my brother, and so we were bused to that school, and that is when I realized I was a nigga, because I knew it was black, but I didn't know I was a nigger. So when I got to that school, and all of those white teachers and white students were looking at me like, what is this nigger doing in this classroom? I was like, oh, they're not accustomed to black people. And then the teacher would try to she would teach the class, like specifically math class, and she would teach the class, and then she would come over to me and asked me, "Did you understand that?" And at first I thought, "Oh, she being a nice teacher." So she's trying to ask me if I understood or kept up. And then I started realizing that I was the only one she's doing it to. So I'm like, "Wait a minute.
Mhm.
I understand what you're teaching me." So I started like stopping her from coming over there and asking me that. So I asked her one day, I said, "Why do you ask me that?" She said, "I just want to, make sure that you are, understanding it like everybody else." And I'm like, why wouldn't I?
Mhm.
I didn't understand it. And then I really got it. I really understood it when it was a big deal that my brother was the valedictorian of the eighth grade graduating class, and there had never been a black valedictorian before at that school. It never.
Wow.
And so he kind of made like a bootleg local history at that school by being the first black student to graduate either valedictorian or salutatorian from eighth grade. And they made a big deal out of that because he was up against this their prize white girl. Stacy was her name. And she was the prize white girl. She was supposed to be the smartest thing, walking around. And but she really couldn't hold a candle to my brother. And they were trying to figure out, well, what school did you go to? He's like, listen, I study, okay? So just give me a little stupid test and a little, back then it wasn't the ISAT, it was the Iowa test. You remember that mean? It being the Iowa test and not like the ISAT
I
test.
sure do. Yeah, we had to take the Iowa test. I remember that.
And so, all of that. So he was so that's when I realized, oh, we're niggers. according to everybody else. That was interesting.
Mm.
Mm. I first realized uh early on, um in the I think the fifth grade. Like I was usually always the only black girl in class, so um because like when my mom was in the military, for some reason the base that she was on, like there weren't a lot of black people on that base. But it was Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, and I went to this uh elementary school, and afterwards we would go to the recreational center. So I always knew I was like the only black student, but I didn't realize that it was supposed to be like something different or something bad we would until the fifth grade we went to this recreational center, and it would be like kids from other schools there too. So that's when I started to see like a lot of other black kids there. So I remember one day um, I was sitting in the computer room of that rec center doing my homework, and there was another black girl there. She was a friend of mine, and um, she had signed her name on the list to, get a computer. And this white boy got up and, like, I guess cut the line in front of her. So, she said my name was on the list first, and he was like, yeah, whatever. And she played like she was taking her earrings out, and she was like, oh, I'm gonna mess this boy up. And I kind of butted in and was like, don't ever make a black girl take her earrings off. You better get up and give her her computer. And next thing, well, he gets up, and next thing I know, one of the ladies from the rec center comes up to me and this girl, and they're talking about we're being racist towards other black people, and we're being racist towards this white boy because I I think I got that from like a Tyler Perry poster. I'm not sure. I think it was like a Medea poster where it said don't make a black woman take her earrings off. And so, like, you know how white people do, they try to make it sound like black people are always more racist than everybody else. Like, black people are the real racist. I'm like, how can I be racist to another black girl if I'm a black girl and I'm telling a joke, and she was being playful with him, but then he tried to spin it like she actually was gonna fight him or something. So I thought the woman was being racist. I'm not gonna lie, because she automatically sided with him, knowing, well, seeing that it wasn't even really a big deal because he got off the computer. It wasn't like she actually threatened him. Plus, he was like bigger than both of us. So if she put his hands on him, I'm pretty sure he would have messed her up. So I don't even understand like what this woman was getting at. But of course, she sided with the white boy, and she was threatening to suspend both of us from the thing. And my mom had to go over there and cuss the woman out and like file a report or something. It was a whole big thing, like for nothing. I mean, we were all 10 years old at the time. I mean, it was just stupid children's stuff. And if he hadn't cut the line in the first place, which she never even asked him if it was true that he cut the line, she just took his side. Then, all this would have been squashed. It was just a big thing, and it got on my nerves. But yeah, that's when I realized that it was like, um, we're not going to be treated fairly. And of course, white people are always going to side by them with other white people, and they don't give a fuck about the truth. That's when I started to get like real, I guess, disillusioned about the whole thing, because like at the time my mother was trying to tell me like this we are the world kumbaya bullshit. And even today my mom is still on it, because like she's married to a non-black man. So I'm just like,
Ugh.
Well, I think for me, it was an interesting experience for me because, first of all, I'm from the islands, and on the islands, you have Black Jamaicans, like, you'll have white Jamaicans, you have Filipino Jamaicans, like, there's all kinds of Jamaicans. And so, this other race or skin color or whatever really doesn't matter because are you Jamaican or are you foreign? Are you other or are you us? So as far as skin colors and stuff like that, like even within my family, as far as colorism, like that stuff didn't really exist to me, and I didn't really understand that it existed to other people, especially not to the level that it does. So
Mhm.
and then on top of that, one side of my family was basically all dark skinned. And on the other side of my family, everyone was mostly light skinned and they all married a white person. So there's a lot of interracial babies, interracial couples. So I don't know, like to me, the concept of the color of my skin makes a difference somehow today for some reason like that didn't it was never going to process unless the outside world told me so. So the first thing that happened was I was in junior kindergarten or no senior kindergarten, and it was the year between senior kindergarten and grade one, and we were going to move from the area of Mississauga that we were to the one we're in now. And my friend, like I had gone to junior kindergarten with her. We were in the same class. She literally lived next door to us because we lived with my grandparents at the time because my parents were teen parents and I was like 4, so trying to figure this stuff out. So this family has lived next door to my grandparents. Like my grandparents bought that house before they broke ground. So I think they moved in like 1978 maybe actually even before that really probably 1968 is what I mean. So for they've known each other forever, and so me being best friends with this little girl who lives next door, what's the problem? Well, the problem is they're Italian, and the father, so I guess the grandfather is very racist. Like he will speak to my grandfather and stuff like that, whatever, but he's racist. Okay, fine. Didn't know how much so until it was literally Canada Day, and so we were playing together and whatever. And then she got called into her house, and she was in her house for a while. She came back out, and it's like she snuck back out, and she snuck out. And I remember it was dark outside. The fireworks were going off, and she came and sat on the porch next to me. She was crying, and she said that she can't be my friend anymore. And I said, why? And she said, because you're a nigger, right? And I was like,
Wow.
what's a nigger, right? And she's like, I don't know, but that's what my poppy said, my grandfather said. So I'm not allowed to be your friend anymore. She was really upset, right? And so you think about from the mouth of babe, she didn't know what a nigger was. She wasn't trying to hide it. She said it as plainly she said every other word, right? And so I went and asked my mother, and I was crying, but I was crying because my friend can't be my friend anymore, not because of the racial slur. I didn't get it. And there was a big fight and whatever, but it didn't really stick. Like as much as that happened, it made me think that those people were bad people, kind of thing. Like that grandfather's a bad person, but it didn't make me think about the greater world. And I think that when it struck me was several years later. I remember I was 8 years old, and we lived in this apartment building that on the bottom floor had a convenience store. And I remember I had been cleaning. My mom said whatever change I found in the couches and whatever, wherever I was cleaning, I could keep. So there was enough for me to buy some penny candies and whatever. So I think it was like $2.50 or something. So I went down to the convenience store and I was so proud of myself because I was allowed to go by myself. I'm 8 years old, so I'm a big woman now and whatever. And I go into this convenience store and I'm looking around because I know how much money I have. So I'm trying to figure out what can I buy? Do I want the candy? Do I want a chocolate bar? Is there some type of gadget I could buy? And I'm looking around. And this woman at the counter, I guess they owned the store, she was Chinese. And I was in the store. I wasn't in the store very long. I didn't even really touch anything. And she starts screaming at me to get the fuck out of her store. right? And I mean, I was a tall kid, and I did look a little bit older, so I looked like a young teen instead of 8. But still, she's yelling to get the fuck out of her store, and she said, "You niggers all steal. You niggers all want to steal. Put me out of business. Get the fuck out, nigga. Get the fuck out, nigga." And I remember, I remember freezing because at this point now I know what the hell that word means. I've never heard someone use it, let alone use it at me. And I remember just freezing because I was on such I was felt so good, like that's why I described. I felt like a big woman. I'm so proud I'm being allowed to go to the store by myself, and for this to happen, and I didn't do anything. And I remember going upstairs sobbing, and I couldn't even get the words out as far as what happened. My mother was going to call the police. She thought someone attacked me because I was just so devastated, like what the hell happened. And yeah, she went and confronted that store owner and blah blah blah. And but it didn't matter because at that point you know it made me realize that I was being stereotyped. I was being grouped in class. I didn't have to do anything wrong at all. It's not like, oh, because my life in my head, I didn't want to be a statistic. And something my mother had said to me, because she was a statistic, right? Being a teen mom, at a wedlock pregnancy. Yeah, they got married, did the shotgun marriage thing that didn't last, but she didn't want me to, follow in her footsteps. So, I didn't want to be a statistic, but I didn't realize that you could literally do nothing and be treated that way. And I think that that was really my eye opener. And I remember very shortly after that, my mother did this weekend and they rented all of Ruth, and my whole family actually came over, my aunts and uncles and everyone, a couple of my cousins, and we all just sat there and watched Roots and talked about racism and talked about slavery and stuff like that. But I think that up until that point, like I didn't realize that skin color was such a big factor in North America in the way that it is. And I didn't realize I was going to be treated that way. And that was the defining moment for me. It changed everything. And going forward, I got it. Like, being black was one thing, but as Kendra said, like I knew I was a nigger.
Mm. Brother Cerulean?
Well, I have to say that I've pretty much always known that I was black. Um, you know, uh, I'm originally from the southeastern, the southeasternmost town of Alabama. It's right on the border of Florida and Georgia. There's a town called Dothan. A lot of history in that town. So my father always reminded us, you know, specifically me, my older brother, who's in his mid 50s. He was a bit more hard headed, so Pops was going to make sure that the mistakes that were made with him weren't repeated with me.
Mm.
So I was always reminded. Um, my grandfather reminded us. Pops reminded us. You know, every pretty much all of the elders in the family constantly remind us, "You black out here." you know, um, growing up, I can remember being told stories by my grandfather as a kid for why he left Alabama. He was a businessman. He was actually alive. Um, he was born in 1889, died in 2000, just before his 111th birthday. Um,
Wow.
and so, um, yeah, he was a great man. I actually missed him. I was actually deployed in the Navy at times of death. But he was a businessman back in the day. Um, served in, was in the Navy for about 35, 36 years. Served in 3 conflicts. Um, he was an ammo rat, ammo runner on a naval vessel back during World War II. Um, I remember him telling stories about how when he was in the military, The black soldiers were relegated to basically manual labor. Um, the white soldiers, they basically got to do all of the jobs that require, you know, higher aptitude. And it wasn't that blacks didn't have a high aptitude; it was the fact that they weren't allowed to do jobs that required high aptitude. Um, Being told by a Dothan sheriff um, that if he didn't leave town, um, he had bought all of these government bonds um, after World War II, um, pulled the family up out of severe poverty. Literally, the patriarch of our family, and he was told by a Dothan sheriff that if he didn't leave town, he was going to burn the house down um, with his entire family in it, which included my father.
Mm.
You know, um, he spent some time in Harlem. He was a follower of Garvey. Um, and he settled here in Minnesota, which he owned quite a few properties that are now owned by Asians. Entrusting it to my father, who passed down the business to my older brother and my older cousin within the same age range. And I watched them squander it all away, basically blowing away my inheritance. I didn't get any inheritance because my older cousins and my older brother basically squandered my inheritance away.
Wow.
And so I've always known um, what black was, in a sense. Um, as a kid, I can remember, um, you know, 4 or 5 years old, being in a house and seeing a cross being burned in the front yard. Um, Bunch of hooded men outside telling my father to come outside and exchanging gunfire while they're telling everyone in the house to get on the ground
Wow.
while bullets are flying over your head. Oh yeah, my mom was a gangster, man. My mom was her alma mater was Auburn University, and she was still facing the same level of racism that my grandfather was facing. Um, so it was something that we were always reminded of. When it came to business, my grandfather had a simple principle: it's okay to take white folks' money, but to never accept their leadership because they will purposely run anything that you allow them to join of yours into the ground. Um, my older brother and my older cousins, they um, never took that advice because we were living in a time of basically political correctness in which they assumed that white people were their friends. And everything that my grandfather had accumulated that was passed down to them was lost in a single generation before I was even old enough to inherit it. As a matter of fact, when I graduated, my father gave me a car that I didn't even get to enjoy because I ended up going to boot camp beforehand. Before I even got to even break the car in. It was an old '70s model Datsun 280. I used to hate that car growing up, but now I look at that car, I see it. I see it going on auction for 50, 60, $70,000. This is $70,000 car. It's a classic now. Didn't even get to enjoy it. Um, and so my brother drove it while I was in the military. He ran it into the ground. So even that little inheritance he squandered away.
Wow.
And so I've always known what it pretty much was to be black. When I was a kid taking different tests, some people came to see my pops. They wanted me to go to this school. It's the Hayden Heights Preparatory Academy. Um, it was basically for uh, supposedly advanced students. You know. And my pop said, well, uh, I won't allow him to go unless you take both of them because I have a sister that's like 3 years older than me, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to split them up. So if you want to take him, you got to take both of them. And so my sister went to Heat Nice Preparatory Academy, and there was only 5 other black kids in that school, and all of us stuck together. Not because we wanted to, because we basically had no choice.
Well, when I was coming up, I didn't find out. I didn't realize I was black until, I think I kind of always knew I was black, but the revelation of being black didn't really set in till I was about, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10. Um, my parents never sat me down and they were like, well, X, you are black, so you have to do things X, Y, and Z way. I never got that talk from my parents. I realized that I was black when we moved, because my father had a landscape design company, because my father was a landscape architect. And when he started his company, we kind of moved up in the world. He because my father was a landscape architect for like 25 years. And he didn't always do that. He did something else. He drove trucks before that. And when he started his company, of course, making more money. My older siblings, because there was 9 of us. So in the beginning of life was pretty, we were stretched pretty thin. But as my older siblings started to move out the house, we moved into a smaller house, and my father started his company. So life got a lot better. And we moved to a part of town that was pretty damn white. The town that I was raised up in was very segregated anyway. I mean, where we lived, there was all, on that strip of road, there was only black people. Only black people lived on that block. And that block was that strip, that block had to be 5 miles long. And only black people lived on that street. There were no anything else. There was no Hispanics, no whites, just black. It was literally Blackville. But it was black people who had, who owned companies like my dad did, who owned stores, those kind of black people. But the town that I grew up in was white. I mean, the school I went to, very white. And when we moved over there, I realized I was black, sort of like Lady Kendra was speaking about when I went to school. Because I had always went to school with black people, black kids my age and all that kind of stuff. When we moved over there, everything changed. I walked in there and I didn't see any black people. And it seemed like the first day I ever walked into that school, when I walked in there, time just stood still. Everybody just kind of froze, as I walked in. And as I was walking in, everybody was just frozen. I was the only thing moving. And I got into the foyer of the school building, and how I realized I was black. Every teacher, even though they were walking with other people and doing other stuff, everybody just kind of centered in on me. The teachers, the principals, how in the morning when you go, elementary school, when you walk in there, the teachers are moving around and they're hi and hello and the principal's greeting everybody. When I came in there, time stood still, everybody froze, and everybody just kind of collapsed on me. And they were like, oh, you must be the new student. And even back then I was like, obviously, because I'm the only black person here. But yeah, that's when I realized I was black. My parents never emphasized our color. And it's crazy that they didn't, because my parents were from the South. My parents were from Georgia. And they never emphasized a lot on race too much. We never had the race talks that I had with my children. But I guess because I was growing up in a different time, being a former Muslim and being in the NOI and stuff like that, I gave my sons and daughters the race talk. I told my sons about how they should conduct themselves if they're pulled over by the police. Um, I talk to my daughters about how people are going to perceive you a particular way because you are a black woman as opposed to any other kind of woman. I actually had those black talks with my children. I don't know if it was due to my experience or my upbringing. Um, those talks I didn't have with my parents. My parents never emphasized. I don't even think I ever heard my mother or father say black people. I heard my father call people niggers a lot. I heard him say I hate niggers a lot, but I never really heard those two words put together, black and people, from my parents. So as I grew as a person and to become aware of what was going on with black people, it was self-discovery. I didn't get a lot of that from my parents because I guess when they came from the South, my father had told me stories about the Klan and things that had happened to people that he knew because they were black. But when they came from the South and went to New York, I think they were kind of trying to leave that behind, and they never really emphasized it to us. I know they never did to me. I mean, my parents didn't help me discover my blackness. I learned that I was black my first day of going to the new school. Um, Let me ask the panel this, and I'll ask Brother Cerulean too, because we're coming around to the last 20 minutes of the show. Now, as black folks, I spoke earlier about we have preconceived notions about each other, and we have slight prejudices. All of us do. Do any of you ladies, and you too, Brother Cerulean, do you believe there's ever going to be a time when black will mean something different than it does now? And when I say that, I mean not so much as black as a people or black as a connotation or a description, but black as a mind state, or black as a class. Because I think a lot of times when people say, we talked about the black store and the black restaurant and the black this and the black that, I think a lot of times when people say black, they attribute it to class, and usually lower class, especially when other people are talking about it. When you're talking about white people, Hispanics, and Asians, and everything else, when they're saying black, they're speaking of class. I don't think they're necessarily speaking of color, in that context. So I'll ask the panel, do you believe that black will ever come to a point where it has a different connotation, where it describes a mind state and or a class?
I think it'll stay the same because black people, like in the US, in the United States, we're not trying to get organized fast enough. You know? Like it'd be different if we were more, you know, organized and had a set agenda of what we wanted to do. But if you ask every black person in America, what's the agenda? What's the black agenda? Each person will have a different answer. As a Cerulean alluded to earlier in the stream, we're not monolithic, you know, we're not on the same page. So as long as that's happening, as long as we're not on the same page, other groups of people can control whatever narrative about us, because we're too busy infighting to even focus on any real goals. You know what I mean?
I think that, to Kat's point, I think that black will stay what it is. And I think that if there's to be a better black, if you will, it'll have a different name. And the reason why I say that, or a different label, because we love our labels. And I say that because look how hard everybody is fighting right now to change the thought process and the ideas about black, and it's not working. We're working. It's not working when we're dealing with others. It's not working amongst ourselves. I think that people get tired of trying to change it and just leave it as it is and come up with something different to label the new blacks, or the people who don't think they're like those blacks. They're not going to change it. It's too much work and change. It takes too much blood, sweat, and tears to bring forth change. So what'll end up happening, I believe, is that it'll just be called something else, the same way that black used to be colored and nigger and so on and so forth, and now we're using the PC African American. It'll just become something else. It won't get changed. It won't get fixed. It won't um, come out like a beautiful butterfly through a metamorphosis. No, it's going to be called something else because we're too lazy as a society and as a people to actually bring about change.
Mm.
Yeah, you know what? I gotta say that I agree. Um, and I think I'm very much in agreement with Pat. At the end of the day, Black Americans especially have this issue where, I mean, they can't even, right now, Black Americans are sitting there and fighting based on phenotype about who gets to be Black and who doesn't. Just based on phenotype alone. So your phenotypic presentation, if you aren't dark enough, if you don't have uh, X hair and whatever, then you don't get to be Black. So it doesn't matter that your ancestry is from American slavery and that you're the 10th generation post slavery here and blah, blah. No, none of that matters. Your phenotype matters. Prove your DNA to us so that way you can get your black card in America. Like, when you're busy focused on such bullshit, you can't focus on the real things that actually matter, that are actually impacting Black America today. So as a result, it's like, what actual change could be made? There's not going to be able to be any type of change in any meaningful way, the way that the community currently is, because they're busy. I mean, as it is, I think that America has this issue, and I think that the whole melting pot concept, come here and forget everything you are and come be like us, and I think they really got that from the whole slavery concept. Oh, well, we'll just brainwash them all and come and be American and forget who you were before and forget your culture and forget your language and forget your beliefs and forget your values and whatever. And that doesn't work. And I think that the problem with Black America is, you have a lot of Black immigrant people coming in, and that's what Black America wants everyone to do. You're a Jamaican American, or you are a St. Lucian American, or whatever it is. And it's like, no, you need to just come and, be in the same mindset that we have, But the thing is that someone who is a new immigrant can't possibly be on the same level and the same mindset and the same message that Black Americans are. They can't, because they necessarily don't have the same experience as of right now. They don't even have the same fight. Because let's say you want to fight for reparations. They can help you fight because they sympathize, but if anyone's getting reparations, it's not them, right? Because they don't descend from American slavery. So, right now, rather than fighting on stupid things like colorism, even if you wanted to fight on inclusion or exclusion, you could do something a little bit more common sense, like, hey, so did your blackness originate here, or did you recently immigrate, post abolition? Let's find out that answer maybe first. No, they don't want to have that focus. And so as a result, when you just look at something as basic as what does black mean, who gets to be black, to have a fight to begin with, to have a discussion begin with, Black America cannot agree on that, then how are any significant changes going to be made? Just leave blackness where it is, and it will continue slowly imploding, self-destructing, et cetera, et cetera. And probably in 1,000 years, it will mean exactly what it means now. And sadly, while white and Asian and all those other things probably will mean something different. I honestly don't see that there's going to be any type of movement.
Mm. Lady Kendra.
Uh, I don't know. I pretty much sort of agree with everything that Ruby just said. And I don't think, we get caught up on too much petty stuff. What are we really gonna, how are we really gonna affect change? One minute Meghan Markle's black, the next minute Tyrese's wife is not black. I mean, we don't even know. It's based on, who wants, whether or not you like the guy and whether or not you can bed winch with him. I mean, this is petty, and I don't know that we can get over the pettiness to affect change. Yeah, I don't know that we can. If we do affect change, it definitely won't be, like the saying goes, the revolution will not be televised. Certainly not going to happen on World Star Hip Hop. We're probably not going to hear about it. It'll be stuff like this that we're sitting, and the views aren't as high as we would like it to be, probably because we're not fighting on the show, you know. So basically, I just kind of agree with what the other ladies are saying.
Brother Cerulean.
Um, I have a mixed bag here because in a way I think that black already does mean something different to me. Um, because in my opinion, um, when I look at it ideologically, black as an identity was the bag of lemons that was dumped on us, and we turned it into something beautiful. We turned it into something great. We turned it into something that everybody wanted to be, wants to emulate, and it only displays that no matter whether it's 1618 or 2018, that black is still the hottest commodity uh, on the market. I mean, they love our culture, they love our style, um, they love our physicality. So my personal opinion, um, I think we've actually made something beautiful with black as an identity. But as far as it meaning something else to, for instance, other groups, I don't think that's going to change because we can't force them uh, to think otherwise. But I mean, they created the identity for us, and, after all, and it's kind of like the Constitution; it hasn't changed, since it was created. Um, and so that's kind of the way I look at it. It already means something different to us now until we um, get organized, which is really the biggest problem in the black community is the lack of organization to define ourselves by a monolithic principle, um, which actually gives us power. First, starting at the economic level, the collective economic level, which builds your financial structure so that you can grab political power. And then you affect change with that political apparatus. And then you can exert yourself out into, because what the political power does is basically um, allow you to affect policies, create policies that allow you a bit of breathing room so you can have cultural development. When you hear these mockingbirds and flying monkeys and the ring around tell you it's the lack of morality and all of this, and it's the lack of this. It's because black folks don't get along. Those are symptoms of a greater problem, a greater all-encompassing problem, which is the lack of organization. So you can only build morality. Morality, people use that so loosely. What's moral, say for instance, to American society may very well be immoral to say Asian society or even Arab society. For instance, if you've been in the Middle East, there's some cultural things that we do here in America that we think nothing of, but if you do over there, you could be caned for. For instance, like crossing your feet, showing the bottom of your feet to someone while you're sitting on a park bench,
Mm.
which is a sign of disrespect. You know, um, and so here in America, for instance, we can spit gum on the sidewalk so that it ends up on someone else's shoe. You're not punished for that. In places like Singapore, you'll be caned for that. They believe in cleanliness, and so until we define ourselves by that monolithic principle, it will remain the same. But for us, it can always mean something different. It's the sort of the same way that we've redefined the word nigger, and we dropped the hard R. We redefined that, and it became a term of endearment. Which you have black liberals, conservative alike, telling you that you shouldn't be using that term. But I have the I have the same mindset as Paul Mooney. I'd say nigga 1,000 times to make sure my teeth are white. So um, yeah, that's about the sum of it.
Well, in closing, I'll say this to everyone. As a black man, and I do mean as a black man, I don't consider myself an African American, and I'm not mixed with anything or none of that kind of crap. As a black man, I think that as a people, we have come a long way. Considering how we were brought here and what our history is here as a people. Now, at times, I do witness things that appear to set us back at times when it comes to our people. But I'm glad that the things that I have witnessed that I think set us back, I'm glad that I don't witness it across the board, and people may say that black society is getting worse. I don't necessarily believe that. I've heard people say that, but I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that black society is getting a little more diverse. We're getting a little more diverse with how each of us live and how we operate and how we think and how we define our families and how we define our communities. I think we're getting a little more diverse, but I don't think we're getting worse as a people. That being said, as black people, we can change not only how, we see each other, because changing how other people see us is a tall order. And I don't think how other people see us really matters, but I do think it matters how we see each other. I really think that matters more than anything else.
I think
And
that's the really the basis of collectivism and getting organized is how we see one another as opposed to how others see us. Because how we
exactly,
see each other, that is what actually builds the framework for how others see us, and that comes
exactly.
with organization, cultural development, and so forth.
Oh yeah, how we see each other. I mean, because that's like Brother Cerulean just said. I mean, that's what's going to build. That's going to build the collectivism. That's going to build the respect for one another. That's what's going to build our society, and that's what's going to give the children something to not only look forward to, but also something to strive for when we talk about being black. So I like to thank everybody for showing up. Hey, what's good, brother? Complex Design, what's going on, man? Um, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. I want to thank all my mods in the chat room. They did a really good job. I saw them chop a few troll heads off tonight. I never have to worry about the trolls when my mods are here because they pretty much decapitate them as they walk through the door. I want you to, I don't know if you're watching this thing from the replay, but I need you to like, share, subscribe to the channel, share this video on your YouTube page, share it on your Facebook, Instagram, whatever you got. Share my videos like you shared a 350-pound woman twerking. God damn it. And be sure to stop by the Prophet of Thought series on Facebook and the TPOT bandwagon on Facebook. And make sure you stop by the Prophet of Thought series fan group page. Request to be a member. I'm sure they will let you in. I don't administer it, y'all. I have no control over it, so they pretty much run it themselves. Also, you can catch us on WhatsApp and Instagram, and we also have a Twitter, and our Twitter handle is at TPOT Media. That's at TPOT Media on Twitter, and I expect everyone to follow me on Twitter, because like I said, if you don't, I will haunt you in your sleep. And make sure you stop by the old website, www.don'teventryi.wikifoundry.com. I'd like to thank the Unicorn for T.L.O.T for coming through and laying down a good show. Lady Ming, Lady Kendra, Lady Classic, Lady Cats, Unicorn 4 always come through and lays it down. And I'd like to thank Brother Cerulean Gray for stopping by and spending some time with us as well. So make sure you have your asses back here next Wednesday and Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, where you can catch me and the TPOT team laying down something that I know will interest you. I'm working on a good guest for next week, y'all. I don't want to tell y'all who it is because they may not show up. But look for the flyer, look for the promo, because you know when I get a good guest coming up, you know you can always catch a promo right here on this here channel. So with that, I will leave you folks with 3 words like I always do. Open your minds, and we out of here, y'all.
Good night, guys.
Good night, y'all.
Night.
The Prophet of Thought series.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Peace, folks.
Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series. Open your mind.